Welcome, everyone, to the regular meeting of the Centro City Council for Tuesday, April 7. First item on the agenda is the roll call. City Clerk, please.
Mayor Silva,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson,
Here.
Councilmember Sanders.
Here.
Councilmember Cardenas,
Present.
and Councilmember Villegas Walker.
Here.
Thank you. We have asked Pastor Ron Griffin to do the invocation for us. Can you also lead us in the flag? Salute, Mr. Griffin, please. And
Double duty.
I will say that also we had asked Pastor Nunn to join us today. He has requested that he do the invocation at our next council meeting in 2 weeks. For today, it will be Mr. Griffin, in both the flag salute and the invocation.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's pray. Holy God, God of many names, as we gather here this evening to conduct the business of this wonderful city, I want to lift up those who serve in these elected offices, for their staff, and for all who work so diligently to make this community a better place. I also want to lift up faith communities within our city and within our county. You know our hearts and you know our ways. You know there is conflict without and within. And are we yet alive, held together by your Spirit, and called to be the bearers of your love, your grace, reconciliation, and healing? And so I pray tonight for my brothers and sisters in faith, people of faith everywhere, that as we continue this work, making this community a better place, that work be not just for our good, but the good of all concerned. And it's in your holy name that we pray. And together we say,
Amen.
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 Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. We have a number of reports coming out of closed session by the city attorney. So, Ms. Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's actually 3 meetings worth of closed session reports, so I apologize for the length of these reports. On a motion by Councilmember Villegas Walker, second by Councilmember Cardenas, the City Council met in closed session on March 23rd, 2015 at 11 a.m. All council members were present. A report was given to council on the anticipated litigation item. There is no final action to report, but on a motion by Councilmember Sanders, second by Councilmember Jackson, direction was given to the committee, which is Mayor Silva and Councilmember Villegas Walker, to retain legal counsel to provide a legal opinion and options to the City Council. The scope of work for the legal counsel has been defined. The motion carried 5-0. On a motion by Councilmember Villegas Walker, second by Councilmember Cardenas, the council scheduled an adjourned regular meeting for Monday, March 30th at 12 p.m. Councilmember Jackson will appear at the meeting telephonically, and he will comply with the requirements of Government Code Section 54953 sub B in order to do so. Motion carried 5-0. Closed session concluded at 12:24 p.m. On a motion by Councilmember Villegas Walker, second by Councilmember Cardenas, the City Council met in closed session on March 30th, 2015 at 12:01 p.m. All council members were present, with Councilmember Jackson appearing at the meeting telephonically. Compliance with all of the requirements of Government Code Section 54953 sub B was confirmed before the meeting was called to order. A report was given to council on the anticipated litigation item. There is no final action to report, but on a motion by Councilmember Jackson, second by Councilmember Cardenas, authority was given to the committee, which is Mayor Silva and Councilmember Villegas Walker, in connection to the retention of legal counsel to provide a legal opinion and options to the City Council. Motion carried 5-0. Also, on a motion by Councilmember Cardenas, second by Councilmember Jackson, direction was given to staff relating to the negotiation of a retainer agreement with the outside legal counsel. The motion carried 5-0. Greg Moser and Greta Proctor participated in the report. council met with its real property negotiators, Ruben Duran, city manager, and Marcela Piedra, community services director, and heard a report regarding acquisition of the property located at 120 East Ross Road. On a motion by Councilmember Jackson, second by Councilmember Sanders, the council gave direction to staff. Motion carried 5-0. On a motion by Councilmember Jackson, second by Councilmember Sanders, the council gave authority to staff. Motion carried 5-0, and closed session concluded at 1:13 p.m. On a motion by Councilmember Sanders, second by Councilmember Villegas Walker, the city council met in closed session today at 11:34 a.m. Motion carried 4-0, with Councilmember Cardenas arriving at 11:36 a.m. The council considered the performance evaluations of the city manager, city clerk, and city attorney. The city manager and city attorney excused themselves from this discussion at 11:36 a.m. and returned to the closed session meeting at 12:15 p.m. Direction was given to Terry Brownlee, Human Resources Director, after the closed session. There was an item added to closed session as the need to take action could not reasonably wait until the next regularly scheduled meeting. Moved by Councilmember Jackson, seconded by Councilmember Villegas Walker, to add the anticipated litigation, significant exposure to the agency item to the closed session agenda. Motion carried unanimously. A report was given by staff in regard to the added item with no final action to report, but direction given to staff. Community Development Director Norma Villacana, Assistant Community Development Director Frank Soto, and Fire Chief Ken Herbert participated in the report. Closed session concluded at 1:09 p.m., and that concludes my reports, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Becker. We have a number of scheduled public comments, and we'll start with our monthly report by the El Centro Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Mayor Silva and other members of the council. It's nice to be here this evening, as usual. I'm pleased to report that Darletta Willis, our CEO at the Chamber, this past week received from Senator Wesso Outstanding Woman in Business Award here in the Valley. So that was very nice and shows her dedication and good job she's done in her time at the Chamber so far. We have a few things coming up this month yet. April 17th, 9 a.m., there'll be a coffee hour with Representative Garcia at the Chamber. You're all cordially invited to attend, please. We will be emailing this out, but we have 3 upcoming ribbon cuttings for new businesses before the end of the month yet now that have just been scheduled. And the mega mixer will be at Ryerson Hall on Thursday, next Thursday, the 16th, is that, I think? Anyway, next Thursday evening. And 28 different businesses will be participating in that this year. So it's going to be a very, very nice mixer. I encourage you all to come if you can. The other thing that I've been very busy with is continuing talks and work with the Mexican consulate down in Calexico. They've come up and visited with me a time or two, and they've visited with Mayor Silva as well. And so we've unfortunately not been able to be in on all the same meetings, but we're headed down the same path. And they're very excited at the prospect of putting together a roundtable discussion between representatives from the chamber and the business community, as well as the city council, the Cotuca tourism people out of Mexicali, the medical tourism people, and other business leaders down there to work on a roadmap to further our plan of developing more commerce on both sides of the border. So we look very forward to that. And then at the Chamber, we're also trying to, and would like to have some feedback from the council, to coordinate a tour for some of those people here in the Imperial Valley to show them some of the pertinent things that they need to see to get them better up to speed as what we have to offer here in the Valley. And with that concludes my report.
Yeah. Related to that, Mr. Smith, a little preview of my mayor comments later in the meeting, but this morning I had a meeting with Miguel Lepe, who is the head of the Public Relations Office for the state of California, Baja California. He met with the Chief of Police, Mr. Madueño, Commander Ramirez, City Manager, and myself. And Mr. Smith and I had the privilege of touring their state-of-the-art communications center in Mexicali, but 2 months ago, perhaps.
Yes,
Time
yeah.
kind of flies.
Yeah, it was a
very
couple
quickly.
months ago now.
And I think I was impressed, as well as Mr. Smith was impressed in terms of the technology that they use, the opportunities for people and their increase the safety measures for tourism in Mexicali and Baja California. And they're wanting to do outreach on this side of the border to let the U.S. communities know that Mexicali is a safe place, that there is technology, there is mechanisms to report crime and feel safe. And the result of the meeting this morning was to have a broader meeting in the next 2 to 3 weeks with police departments across the valley, the chambers of commerce, perhaps mayors, and come up with a communication plan and a strategy to get the word out to citizens.
Yes, the representatives from the consulate that I met with last week were very excited at that prospect and are really eager to present a very professional, quality public forum to the folks of the Imperial Valley, because it's overwhelming what they've done down there.
Yes, very much
It's
so,
very,
much
very
so.
impressive.
So I think it was a very productive meeting this morning, and we'll get the chamber involved at the next meeting. But I felt that we made a lot of progress this morning and just kind of setting up the basic infrastructure for things to come up.
That's good. And the other thing that the consulate indicated to me last week was that the undersecretary to the U.S. consulate from Mexico is coming to Mexicali sometime in the next month or so, and has already indicated a desire to get together and have lunch or dinner with you and myself and some of the others that we've met with. So I think that's very exciting that we're getting that much attention and they're taking it so serious. It's
Yes,
for real.
Very much. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Smith? Mr. Cardenas?
Great work as always, Mr.
Thank you. Okay.
Any other comments? Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, you saw on the agenda that item number 2 was moved over to the regular discussion item, but in its place, I want to ask a friend of mine, Paloma Pearson, to come to the podium, and she has an invitation to the council and also to the audience. Ms. Pearson?
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present here an event that is coming to San Diego State University this coming Friday, that is a fundraising event and is called the Taste of the Valley. We have 24 restaurants in the entire valley doing a food tasting event in the Calexico campus. There are 24 restaurants, 9 are from El Centro. So we would love to have you join us and enjoy the night. The tickets are $35 and every single penny go to scholarships. Last year we had 540 people coming to the event and was a great success. In addition of that, we are having a flamenco dancer coming from San Diego to entertain. And it's going to be a very nice night, and we need the support for the valley because this is the university for the entire valley. Even though the event is done in Calexico, we have 4 main goals. One is to raise money for our students. We want to promote local business that we do. Some people, they don't know that there are some business that they exist in the valley, and they come and they taste the food and they remember the restaurants. We want to promote the university. This is why we have the event in Calexico, and we really want to do something for the community. Last year, I say we have 540 people. So please come join us, and you can buy tickets online. I have tickets, and I have some flyers that I will be happy to pass around, and bring your friends. And I have the support of some of the council members already that they are sponsors and they are coming to join us. Thank you very, very much for your time.
And I have to say that I went to the event last year, and it was outstanding. It was outstanding. The weather was beautiful. The setup was gorgeous. Last year, you had an opera singer.
Yes.
Who was just amazing.
Yes, it's a young lady who sang opera last year. This year is going to sing 3 Spanish songs, Granada, Malagueña Salerosa, y La Paloma. So we are going to enjoy the voice, and we are between the dancers. We have 3 ladies coming from San Diego, a live guitar and a singer from San Diego to entertain.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
and thank you very much for your time.
If you're in town and available Friday, it's really a nice event to go to. Thank you, Mrs. Pearson.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is listed as a presentation by Pastor Chris Nunn, but I understand he's not here, correct? So other people will be making the presentation. But before we do, I just want to, I was informed that there's a PowerPoint that is going to be presented, and just to let people know, the council and perhaps people looking at this, it's going to have some pictures that are a little bit graphic. I want to thank the coalition for removing one that we felt that was inappropriate, but still other picture will be of fetuses in the different stages of development, as I understand that correctly. And I just, again, let the council know, let the audience know, and we're going to go ahead and proceed, unless there's questions from the council first. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Silva and City Council members. Thank you for having us again. Nicole Rothfleisch, representing the Imperial Valley Coalition for Life. We have several speakers that are going to address you briefly. Pastor Pete Mallinger, Pastor Pat Harris, and Marty Ellett each have brief statements to make, and then I'll be back up to introduce the young lady giving our special PowerPoint presentation.
Very well.
Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Forgive my voice, I'm recovering from vocal cord surgery. So I hope you can hear me and that my voice won't be a distraction. As you know, my name is Pete Mallinger. I'm a member of the Imperial Valley Coalition for Life here in the Valley, and I also pastor Calvary Chapel El Centro. I've had the privilege of doing that for the last 38 years. You may have heard from the last Board of Trustees meeting that I was asked to represent a group of people who wanted to boycott the hospital if the board did not cure the issues with the Brown Act and acknowledge that it was handled incorrectly. At that meeting, I told the board that if they were not willing to do it, that there was a group of people who wanted to organize a boycott of the hospital. After I received a copy of a letter that I hold in my hands here, that the hospital sent out to management and to all the staff about this boycott, we shared this letter with the people who wanted to boycott. And that boycott that they wanted to do would not produce the desired results. The reason that it would not have the effect on the CEO or the Board of Trustees is found in just one false statement that they made in this letter. Excuse me. It clearly shows either a lack of understanding in this matter or that they do not care if they tell a lie to make themselves look good. And I know the word lie is strong, but listen to this, and I quote from this letter. Whether or not, and this is their quote, whether or not there is a transfer agreement in place with Planned Parenthood, if a Planned Parenthood patient receives an abortion and has a complication requiring emergency medical care, the ECRMC would be required to treat the patient. This is misleading, tremendously misleading. Actually, it's a right-out lie, as you full well know. If Planned Parenthood does not have a transfer agreement, they would not be allowed to perform abortions, plain and simple. You know this, or you should. But they still can perform and do all the functions that they offer to the community. How embarrassing it must be to have to lie to get out of an inappropriate Brown Act action. The boycott would have had devastating effects on the hospital and all of its staff. There was a heavy debate over the boycott and the magnitude of its effect upon the hospital and upon its staff. They sadly came to the conclusion that the CEO and part of the Board of Trustees did not really care that much for their own staff and would allow this boycott to take place because of a lack of leadership in fixing the violation to the Brown Act, thus allowing the effects of the the boycott to trickle down to staff and personally affect their lives, even though their staff was not involved in causing this boycott. We were, though, able to convince those who wanted to boycott to hold off and take a different direction. That direction that would result in the future of not having to contend with the lack of leadership demonstrated by the Board of Trustees and unfortunately by the City Council as well in this matter. Therefore, instead of the boycotting the hospital, we have asked them to show how sincere they are by bringing items that will help new mothers and new babies. This will take place on May 5th at your City Council meeting outside, and it's going to be the best baby shower this valley has ever seen. And when this is finished, hopefully you'll realize the impact that it would have had on the hospital by these same people if they would have boycotted the hospital. And hopefully you'll be grateful for the Imperial Valley Coalition for Life for preventing this boycott. You see, not only do we respect the life in the womb, we also respect the staff and the hospital as well. We thus stop the boycott that the CEO and some of the Board of Trustees caused by their action and their lack of action. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mellinger.
No questions?
Not a question, but a comment, if you don't mind. I sit on the hospital board. I'm an ex-official member, which means that I don't get to vote on matters of the hospital, but I do get to be there and participate. As you know, there was a letter that was submitted by the Coalition for Life alleging violations of the Brown Act and very specific incidents that have allegedly violated the Brown Act. The hospital will be responding to that letter, and that response should be coming forth in the next week or so. That'll become a matter of public record. The hospital still believes that it did not violate the Brown Act, but it'll answer all the questions that have been raised in the next week or so.
It'll be interesting to see that, especially considering the people that we have counseled with who stood before the Supreme Court says it's so obvious that any attorney should be able to see it.
Okay.
So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could clarify, maybe, City Attorney, violations of the Brown Act, I believe, can just be referred to District Attorney's Office or someone else for independent review and evaluation. So I would think that if the back and forth is not satisfactory, that the next step would be a referral to the District Attorney's Office for evaluation.
Mr. Otero was CC'd on the letter that was sent to the
Okay.
We
hospital
would
attorney.
actually hope that none of this happens. That's why we really fought hard to stop this boycott.
Well, and Mr. Mallinger, I have the deepest respect for you, and you know that your wife's family means the world to me, especially her parents. It troubles me for you to come here and expect me to thank you for stopping a boycott that you were going to put in, your group or a group was going to put in place to begin with. To me, that doesn't seem. I'm just having a
I can
struggle
understand
with
your
that,
feelings,
so.
but if you were at all of those trustees meeting, Board of Trustees meeting.
Which I
and-
wasn't, but.
Exactly. And seeing that the way it was handled, where one night they said nothing would be done, and then they have this action, and the CEO, when 2 members resigned, obviously it didn't go well. And it doesn't look good. It looks like it's behind closed doors. It could have simply been handled by coming out and saying, you know what, we didn't handle this properly. We even told them that, we didn't handle this properly.
And I
Let
think-
us handle it the right way. And all they had to do is go back, do it openly, do it the proper procedure. None of this would happen.
What-
And if I represented people, it was only because I was asked to. It doesn't mean that we wanted that to happen. We fought for it not to happen. But you're trying to pass the blame on me, and I resent
no,
that.
no,
Oh,
no, I'm just- no, 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 I'm
You
trying to
said that
understand
you
that
resented that I would come here.
I didn't use the word
Okay.
resent ever, Mr. Mallinger.
Okay.
And so don't misquote me.
All right,
What
I
I'm trying to-
apologize for
What I'm
that.
trying to say is, I can't get my arms around, it's like you're asking us, or me as a city council member, to thank you for stopping a boycott that was put in play by a group.
The group is the Board of Trustees that not responding, and the citizens revolt to that, which is their citizens' right to do that. We intervened and stopped, and for that, I think a simple thank you would be appropriate, no more.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
Good evening. Honorable Mayor and City Council, as a member of the Imperial Valley Coalition for Life, I have been asked to inform you of our plans to consistently resist abortion in the county and a few other issues. Once again, my name is Patrick Harris. I am the pastor of Sealy Community Church and the president of the board of the Sealy County Water District. Recently, the idea was proposed to boycott the ECRMC because it refused to comply with the wishes of the voting public to cancel the transfer agreement with Planned Parenthood. At that time, a boycott seemed to be our best option to get the attention of the hospital trustee board. However, it is evident to us that a majority of the trustees are more than willing to harm the public and its employees rather than to admit they made a mistake in violating the Brown Act. We can only assume that their prestige and pride is more important to them than the health and welfare of the community. It has come to our attention that they are fully prepared to make others suffer through an extended boycott, and possible layoffs because of their hubris kept them from a simple and painless fix that would have ended this controversy. All the Coalition for Life was requesting of them was to avoid the transfer agreement long enough to debate and openly vote on the issue following the public hearing. We insist that our government representatives operate in an open and quit hiding behind illegitimate closed doors. It is also clear to us that any administrator who can easily cooperate with an organization that inflicts great suffering upon babies in the womb would have little conviction over the pain he would cause the patients and staff should a boycott happen. Because we are people with deep compassion for others, it is not our intent to inflict pain, inconvenience, or suffering to our friends and neighbors in the Imperial Valley. And neither is it our intent to harm the innocent patients and staff of the hospital over the folly of those who deserve the blame for this situation. Therefore, the Imperial Valley Coalition for Life, as Pastor Pete has said, has decided not to call for a general boycott of the hospital. Furthermore, we believe our new plan will be much more effective than a boycott. We will now intensify our focus on the elected officials and administrators who have violated the public trust and ignored the voice of the people. We are asking people to call, write, and email their city council to demand a public hearing and open vote on the issue of avoiding the transfer agreement. In the case of the interim hospital CEO, it is our contention he has usurped his stated authority by signing the transfer agreement without conducting an economic impact report on the economic risks to the hospital. We also contend that he usurped his authority signing the transfer agreement without a consensus of approval by the Board of Trustees. We are calling for his immediate resignation and/or removal. On the matter of the attorneys for the hospital in the city, I would like to draw your attention to the following. First of all, I would like to draw your attention to the California Brown Act 54954-3, chapters 4 and 5. Quote, public may comment on agenda items before or during consideration by a legislative body. Your insistence that all comments by the public, apart from these stated ones here, be limited to a time on the agenda after action items have been considered as a violation of the Brown Act. You are hindering and suppressing free speech when the public is not invited to speak on each and every item on your agenda. At minimum, public comment time must be at the beginning of the meeting so each agenda item can be addressed by the public before it is voted on. Once again, in our opinion, your attorney who, quote, frames your agenda is operating in violation of the law and putting this legislative body in jeopardy. Second, I direct your attention to 54953C, Chapter 6 of the Brown Act, All votes, except for those cast in permissible closed session, must be cast in public. No secret ballots, whether preliminary or final, are permitted. The hospital trustee board voted in secret then in a closed session when it was not permitted. As the only duly elected representatives over the hospital, it is our contention that you have the duty and will be held responsible by the public to cancel the transfer agreement. Third, once again, I refer to the Brown Act, 54954.3. Public meetings of governmental bodies have been found to be limited public forums. As such, members of the public have broad constitutional rights to comment on any subject relating to the business of the governmental body. Any attempt to restrict the content of such speech must be narrowly tailored to effectuate a compelling state interest. Specifically, the court found that policies that prohibited members of the public from criticizing school district employees were unconstitutional. These decisions found that prohibiting critical comments was a form of viewpoint discrimination, and that such a prohibition promoted discussion artificially geared toward praising or maintaining the status quo, whereby foreclosing meaningful public dialogue. Therefore, it is also our opinion that limiting speech to some unwritten laws of decorum is a smokescreen to hinder debate in this chamber. Your attorneys are paid to keep you from these mistakes that violate the public trust. Since, in our opinion, the attorneys working for the hospital and city have ill-advised this government to violate the Brown Act, we are calling for their immediate resignation and/or removal. Recently, some of the council members have stated that the Supreme Court has declared abortion a right and that their oath of office compels them to allow abortions in El Centro. This is called the Nuremberg defense. I was just following orders because I swore an oath, a person would say. Did the Dred Scott Supreme Court decision that upheld the right to own slaves justify slavery? Certainly not. Neither can Roe versus Wade justify abortion. Did the oath the Nazis swore to Hitler justify the genocide of the Jews? Certainly not. Your oath will not remove the blood from your hands if you do nothing in this matter. This is your moment in history, City Council, to stand for justice or to cower behind a useless oath to perpetuate murder. May God give you the wisdom to choose the right path.
Mr. Harris? Wow. I don't even know where to start. So do you suppose that the oath that we take is superfluous and we have no responsibility to obey the law as we have it?
No, I'm stating that in criminal court, especially when it comes to higher laws, especially when it comes to genocide or infanticide, that there is a higher law above that, and these are crimes against humanity, and the laws...
As determined by whom?
Let me finish. The international laws basically state that those kind of oaths are null and void when you're violating crimes against humanity.
As determined by whom?
As determined by the international courts during the Nuremberg trials.
Those were the days of Hitler, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am. That's
and,
what I said.
Well, yes.
No, I said applies today. I'm sorry, I said applies today.
I believe it
What-
applies today to this.
And you truly believe that?
I truly believe
Wow.
that.
You mentioned slavery, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So slavery, as we know, it was legal. It was abolished through a constitutional amendment. So the powers that have the authority to do that are not in this room today. And we
Sir,
have,
By the
yes.
way, it's Pastor Harris.
Pastor Harris, sorry.
Sir, respectfully, slavery was abolished by over 500,000 people giving their lives to end it.
As I mentioned to Mr. Mallinger, the hospital is preparing a response on the allegation of Brown Act violation that's coming. The hospital is in the opinion that it did not violate, so all the allegations will be responded to. You also know that as we stand today, this council does not have any jurisdiction over the transfer agreement and therefore could not revoke the agreement, even if there's a desire from the council to do that. And that the legal opinion that we're getting will address all the matters that have been brought forth to the council. So I think that the council has been responsible in listening to the community. All the allegations, all the points that were made in reference to this are being investigated, are being evaluated, and the council has not decided one way or the other. We have to obey the law, and from my perspective, we will. I don't know what options may be available to us, if any, but I think it's to ask for us to do things that we have no jurisdiction to do or power to do today, it's irresponsible.
Well, it's not irresponsible for me to say that if this board created the hospital trustee board, created the ordinances that form the hospital trustee board, then they have absolute authority to create new ordinances and to supersede anything the hospital does. And there is a higher law. There's a higher law. Thank you.
There are some points,
Yes, Sanders.
Mr. Mayor, yes, thank you. There are some points that I think is appropriate to speak to. We appreciate Pastor Harris's comments as it relates to the number of individuals that died during the Civil War. But as you well know, sir, the Civil War began as to preserve the Union. It began to preserve the Union when the southern states decided to secede. Subsequent to President Lincoln's second election, it became apparent even to him that part of that also should include that slavery should not be allowed. And that was the reason he did the Emancipation Proclamation and then ultimately worked hard to pass the 13th Amendment. So we appreciate that. We appreciate your comments on that. But I think the mayor has addressed and this council has certainly tried to address all the concerns that was raised by the members who are in the coalition by seeking the outside counsel, and that is later on the agenda to the framework that will be looked at.
All right.
This council has been very diligent in allowing the First Amendment rights for everyone who chose to speak. You've come forward and spoke. The hospital board has tried to exercise that same decorum as it relates to allowing the time for those to speak, even in favor and in opposition to the transfer agreement. So while you're here, we want you to know we appreciate that, Pastor Harris.
Well, thank you very much. Can I respond quickly? She made an assertion. The right to speak in a public hearing does not come from this elected body. The right to speak comes from the U.S. Constitution and from the Constitution of the State of California.
So
As
does.
seen through the Brown Act.
So does.
And when you do not allow the general public comment section to happen before items are addressed on the issue, you are suppressing free speech,
The mayor.
in my opinion. Thank
Okay,
you.
the mayor he will be reading any item on this agenda that you wish to have pulled, even if it's considered something, and he hasn't gotten to that because he's allowing the comments on the front end. And toward the end, he will again acknowledge, you may get up and speak on any item within this council's jurisdiction. So he does lay that out very succinctly and carefully.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders. So in this case, the Constitution does apply in giving people the authority for free speech.
If you read the Brown Act, it says that the free speech must happen before or during,
But you quoted the Constitution,
but
correct?
I'm talking about the Brown Act.
You
right
said the
now.
Constitution
The
of
Brown
the
Act's
state of
part the
California. Okay.
It's part of the laws of
So
California.
those laws do apply.
Okay. They don't apply if people are not told that while you're debating, they can also enter into debate.
But the
It's left to
premise,
the
the
end of
premise
the
that gives,
meeting.
the premise that gives people the right of free speech is based on the Constitution, correct?
Right. And where you have put the public comment section is denying that speech, in my opinion. That's all I'm saying.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Are you talking about the way that we structure our agenda here for
Yes.
the city council?
Yes.
So the big disclosure on the front of our agenda that talks about the ability of anyone to comment on any item, whether it's on the agenda or not on the agenda at any time, somehow this is not
It's not
in
sufficient if you're
compliance.
not letting people know during the debate, do we have anybody who would like to speak to this issue?
The mayor reads that. The mayor reads that.
No,
All right.
at each individual item, or have the public comment section earlier where people can address it as they would like to.
I think
before you
we will
discuss the
agree to
item.
disagree on that one, because I think that this council has shown consistently over the 17, 18 years that I've been here, that we welcome public comment, that our agendas do everything to foster and encourage people to come forward. That's number one. Number two, there's been comments made, disparaging comments about our hospital board members, and I just find that that can't go without being addressed.
Well,
Because
that's fine.
I allowed you to speak, so my turn. We have some outstanding people that serve the hospital board. Mr. Oliver Alvarado, Dr. Charlie Humphrey, Amanda Brooke, Joe Picasso, Sedalia Sanders, our own mayor. These are members of the community who care about this community, who put in a lot of time and effort for that hospital and to better our quality of life here. And I find it very, very discouraging that someone would take a single issue that they had actually, it didn't even, in the ordinary course of business, it could have been signed. The transfer agreement could have been signed and reported out as a, oh, by the way,
As an informational item.
as an information item. So I need to say that. Number two, I just want to see if I understand. You're comparing the members of the city council here to the Nazis, or did I misinterpret what you were saying?
I am saying the same mindset that says my oath will cover me and I will take no blame because I just followed orders or I just followed the law. If that law is immoral, you are still held to account. And that has been the way it's been all through history.
We may be held to account on Judgment Day. What we're held to account to today is to uphold the laws of the state of California and the United States, correct? I'm assuming that as a member of the Sealy County Water District, you took the same oath to uphold the Constitution. You cannot come in and have your own personal view that somehow can take priority or precedent in your job as a member of the Water District, right?
No, I disagree with that.
You do, okay.
I heartily disagree with that. There are some issues that raise above that particular oath. And by the way, I affirmed it to be true. I did not swear an oath because my Bible and my Lord says do not swear oaths,
Okay, but you still,
which is legal to do.
I know, I've been around the block. But I guess what I'm saying is, you took or affirmed the same as all of us.
Right.
And so there's certain
And
restrictions
if I
on what
were
you
in
can
your
or cannot do.
shoes, I would be calling for a measure. I would ask for something to put on the agenda to strike down this transfer agreement and to call for open and public hearings. That's what I would do if I were in your shoes, because I believe, one, you do have the authority to do that, and two, your oath of office does not give you permission to wave this away as if it's not going to be, it's not part of your legacy, or it's not part of a higher moral authority that you're going to have to respect.
Yeah, I'd like you to point to one thing that this council has done that has given you even the slightest clue that we don't take this seriously, including the action item on our agenda later today to hire independent counsel to advise us on all things related to that transfer agreement.
You
The
haven't
fact that-
taken it seriously because you haven't acknowledged, one, that you do have authority over the hospital, and you have authority over that transfer agreement. That's it.
Because up until this time, or until we get that legal review, we've been told we do not. And that is why this council has moved, excuse me, I'm still talking, Mr. Harris. Up until this point, we have taken this seriously. We have gone out and we have spent money and we have hired outside counsel to come up with an independent, third-party opinion to come back to this body and inform us if what we have been told to this point is correct and legal. So I take quite an exception to the fact that you've making a statement that this council does not care, because if we didn't care, why would we go through all this? Why would we spend 3 or 4 hours in giving everybody in the public an opportunity to speak in front of this council and voice your opinion or voice your concerns or whatever if we didn't care?
Well, the issue is, are you listening to the voters who have been overwhelmingly showing up to these meetings?
Well, obviously, we are concerned enough to go through the process of what we are doing at this point in time. I think if we were totally disregarding the public or we didn't care about this issue, I would assume that this body would not even be having this matter on the agenda and we'd be moving forward with other issues. So I think the mere fact that this council has taken this issue seriously enough to put it on the agenda every single week, to allow the public to voice their concerns, their opinions, their issues every single council meeting, and for the fact that this has taken an extremely or extraordinary amount of time from all 5 of us on a personal level, I think we certainly care about this issue, and we've certainly moved in the direction to at least get a solid legal opinion on what we can and cannot do. Your opinion of what the Constitution and what law is, unfortunately, is not going to protect us if the Constitution or a legal matter is taken against this body because we did something outside of our scope. So, with all due respect, I think I'll listen to an attorney that has a little bit more experience on this matter than you.
Well, obviously, I would agree that you need to look into further attorney and further review.
Which I think
As a member of the public and as a member who's representing the Coalition for Life, we are stating what we believe to be the higher moral authority, and we have every right to say that, and we have every right to make any assertion that we believe to be factual.
Of course, and we're not denying you that right. But you know, I'm thoroughly disappointed in the accusations that you're making at this body. We have gone totally out of our way to listen to the public, to take action where we can. We have expedited the matter as much as we could by having 2 special council meetings that expedited the legal review. And I have to say, you're making your presentation as part of the coalition. So I'm assuming that the other members of the coalition that are here, including those that are speaking, share your views against this council.
What you're hearing is the views against abortion and against the evil that
You're
is
accusing
abortion.
us of not allowing public testimony. You're accusing us of not taking this matter seriously.
I'm not, don't put the public testimony in with the abortion issue. What we're saying is we believe there's a way that this board could do a better job of making sure that the public knows they have the right to speak out by having that comment section earlier in the meeting.
Are you truly saying that we have denied people the opportunity to speak?
I am saying that agenda item is in the wrong place.
Are you saying that we have denied the public the opportunity to speak?
I think someone who is not, I think there's a possibility that can happen, yes.
Wow.
I don't see how that's
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
even possible.
Next.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Marty Ellett. I work at the El Centro Regional Medical Center. I'm the president of the board at the Real Hope Center. And I am, in a way, sad to see the discussion going this direction. We would like to work with you. We would like to feel that we're on the same team. I believe that the church, the Ivy Coalition for Life, the church in Imperial County will rid the valley of Planned Parenthood. We would like to have a partnership with our leaders in doing this. My comment tonight may seem very small now, but since we haven't seen the response from the hospital yet, just one of the small points of the discussions that we've been having is that the hospital says that they have 18 transfer agreements. They've signed 18 transfer agreements in the past, and not to sign this one would be discriminatory. But I just want to point out that none of the clinics in this valley, except for Planned Parenthood, needs a transfer agreement. Every other clinic in the valley can get a waiver from the state. If for some reason the hospital doesn't want to give them a transfer agreement, they don't have to. The law is written that they're not obligated at all to give anyone a transfer agreement. Planned Parenthood is the only one because they do abortions. No other clinic does that. So just using the idea that, well, we already have signed 18 transfer agreements, why shouldn't we sign this? We have to sign this one. We don't have to sign this one. The hospital is not obligated. And since we're being honest, Planned Parenthood is a bully and is forcing themselves on our community against our will. And we're just not gonna go away. And we would like, some partnership with our constituents. The vast majority of El Centro considers itself pro-life, and so we think that we're representing them, and we want to follow that conviction.
And thank you, Michelle. And I have to say that the scope of work that we've asked the attorney to review includes precisely the comment that you made, as far as what the obligation or responsibility that the hospital and the city would have given other transfer agreements. So that's part of the review.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say that I think that the hospital board's actions or inactions have, in the past few months, have left a bad taste in the community's mouths, and because we believe that they're under your jurisdiction, you're taking the brunt of the discontentment. But I just want to say that we are thankful that you have taken the action to hire the outside legal counsel, and we look forward to you hopefully getting the answers you need to give you the comfort to be able to move forward on this issue. And we plan on keeping it before you because the time is ticking, the clock is ticking, and they could open very soon and start performing abortions. And so we're just still very passionate about it, and we're anxiously awaiting you to get what you need from that outside legal counsel. There is a young lady who is a member of our community who is a young mother, and she also feels very passionate about this issue, and so she has asked if she could give a presentation to you about her thoughts, and we are in agreement on them. And as I said, we will continue to keep this issue in the forefront with you guys until something is done. Also, so that I don't need to come up again after her and we'll just be done when she finishes her presentation, I would like to say that at your May 5th City Council meeting, in addition to the giant baby shower event that Pastor Mallinger alluded to, Dr. Alveda King, Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece, she will be here to address you all that night. So we're very excited to have her coming to town. It's a really big deal. It was not easy to get her here, but we're doing some other events with her, and it worked out, the timing worked out to bring her here to address you all. So because of her her prestige, her fame, there will probably be large crowds turning out again. So we just wanted to let you know, give you a heads up, be prepared for that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Shannon for her PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I come before you tonight humbled and with great respect for the seat that you hold and the big decision before you. I want you to know I'm not here to speak at you. I would like to engage in conversation. So if at any point during my presentation you want to interject, or if you have a comment, a thought, or question, please, I encourage you to do so. My presentation
I'm
is
sorry,
about
can you give us your name?
Shannon.
Shannon, okay, Shannon.
Planned
Call us.
Parenthood in the Valley, and I want to focus on what will we gain and what will we lose. Who are the voters? I want to identify the voters and say that this is not a separation of church and state issue. In fact, there are citizens who have drawn their ideas from faith and should not be discriminated against because of their faith. Regardless of their religious views, they have a voice, and the majority of citizens in the Imperial Valley do not want Planned Parenthood. Is this really the majority stance on the issue in our valley? Let's look at the facts. As you can see, about 82% are Catholic, and we have a very strong religious community in our valley. And also socially conservative, as you've seen, people have voted in the past on issues of value. As you know, our neighbor, Mexicali, it's illegal to have an abortion. And there is talk about a boycott on the Imperial Valley Mall. I don't know if you're aware of that. And I have this article that shows that there has been a boycott from Mexico on a mall before, and they were successful. A quote from the article says, "Before the controversy over this new law, the Tucson Mall was popular with Mexican tourists." Another quote, "We don't plan on coming anymore." And one more says, "The sharp decline in Mexican visitors hurts businesses and the city." And I bring that to your attention just because with hearing that there are talks of this happening, this could really affect our economy.
Ms. Colas, the
Yes.
Tucson Mall,
Sure.
and that was related to a Planned Parenthood opening in Tucson?
No, it was not. However, they disagreed with the law that was in place. That was the controversy. Here's the.
No, well, I have a feeling it was probably tied to the stop and ask for your papers stuff, which is a little
Well,
different.
regardless, Mexico disagreed with what was happening, which is the same thing that's happening here in Mexicali. There's a strong disagreement, and you're seeing a movement. Have you heard of this? Have any of you been? Okay, well, I just want to encourage you to look into it.
You asked for some engagement, so if
Sure.
I may, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, sure, I would love to hear from you.
There were groups here before
Okay.
acknowledging that potential.
Okay.
That potential.
It is my understanding that it's actually the Mexicali Tourist Center, that it is coming from the government. It's not a grassroots movement from the Catholic Church in Mexico. It's actually, sounds like it's very serious. So I just thought that was worthwhile bringing to your attention in this presentation. I say this with respect. It is your responsibility to carry out the voice of your constituents despite your personal beliefs and personal gain, which I know you know. But this question, I think, needs to be brought to attention. How many of you have taken campaign contributions from Planned Parenthood in the past, in any race, for any seat in this county or any other level, or plan to do so for the upcoming election.
That would be identified on the forms that we fill out with the city clerk, which is public, and I
Okay.
suggest you go in, or anyone can go in and look at them.
And to answer your question,
Okay.
There's
I'll
been
ask-
nothing.
We'll ask individually, but the answer is I have not.
Okay,
We
thank
have
you.
not, but it would be public knowledge, and they can go in
Okay.
and check on your
I
Form
have- I have
The
700.
not.
reason why I point this out is it's nice to hear that it is public knowledge of what is in the past, but then there's also, upcoming elections. And I want you to know that people are listening, they are watching, and we want to see where you guys stand. And I don't know how open you're being. If you're in agreement with Planned Parenthood, it's what you want. If you would take donations from them to fund your future campaigns, I think it is a question worth answering right now.
And that information, any candidate running for office would have to acknowledge all of their contributions and to whom those contributions are coming from. And
Okay,
it's
and let
public
me-
information, and it can be provided through the city clerk's office.
Right, that's the past.
Past
But
and the
this-
future, ma'am.
This really is just a rhetorical question, just to get all of us thinking, and, for the audience to just be aware of where you guys stand and how that really does affect the voters.
Well, I think it's important just to make this statement emphatically. If I'm looking up and down here, not a single one of us have taken a dime from Planned Parenthood in the past. So just to answer the question.
And the future is yet to come, but if there's somebody that think they would like to look at the Form 700, you would be able to look at it. It's a
Okay.
public document. You go into the
Okay,
city
well, that's
clerk and-
encouraging that
Yeah,
none
and
of you
anyone can come
have.
in and look at that.
Can I say something else? And first of all, I appreciate your tone and the fact that you respect
Okay, yes,
this
of
body
course.
for what we do, and understanding that what we do is not easy. I think when I talk to people, I hear people say, I'm glad I'm not in your shoes, because this is and it weighs on us. But I do want to,
I know.
since you asked for dialogue, you look way too young to know about Prop 187 that was passed by the voters of California 15 years ago, 20
Yes.
years ago or so.
Maybe 15, 20?
There was a proposition that would have denied healthcare services, educational services, social services to both undocumented people in California only, as well as their children, and would have denied citizenship to children born in California that were of undocumented parents, would have also denied them citizenship.
Okay,
That proposition passed by an overwhelming margin in California.
okay.
So the people of California supported that. Fact of the matter is, as soon as the proposition passed, it was challenged in court. It was deemed unconstitutional, and therefore it did not take into effect. It did not become law,
Okay,
in spite of what the citizens of California wanted at the time. So this is just a circumstance in a case in which the majority of people wanted something, but because it was against the law, it was against the Constitution, the courts ruled it down, and it never became law.
okay. Yeah, I don't want to get too off track, but thank you for that. Just going back to what you said, I just have a thought. I understand what you're saying, but there is also the will of the people, and we are very strong. And even though there has been a time where it didn't go through, there are numerous accounts where the people were heard and it became law. And so I'm just saying we have that power too. Okay. I want to refocus on what city council members may gain personally, and just be very, I know that this is bold, but it's coming from a good place. If there is personal gain, such as Planned Parenthood donating to your future campaigns, you must disclose to your constituents, just as we talked about. In the past, there have been groups who advocate the voice of the community when it's not being translated through leaders' actions. And I'm talking specifically in the Valley. There has been times where that has happened, and I don't want to go into it, but we expect the will of the people will prevail with or without you, and we hope with you. We look to you as leaders, and we would like to partner with you.
Thank you.
Okay. I've been here in the past, oh, sorry. I've been here at some of the other meetings, and there was a lot of Roe versus Wade debate, pro-choice, pro-life, and I felt it was like being in the classroom again. And we've heard the abortion debate. Again, as representatives, you are responsible to your community to act on our voices, and I want to also say that your constituents are not denying the constitutional rights of women. Women will still be able to get an abortion elsewhere. However, that choice is our right. The debate is not pro-choice or pro-life. The issue lies in what you, as our representatives, are doing with your power, despite what your community wants. And I do think that you guys do have that power to make a difference with this Planned Parenthood situation.
There's a clear distinction between power and authority.
Okay,
Power
authority,
and authority.
power. However you want to interpret what I said.
well,
I think that you guys,
Well, the power may be there, but the authority rests in the U.S. Constitution, and therein lies the authority in which we're governed by.
right,
That's a governance issue.
right. But, I mean, we'll see how this plays out. I really just want to focus on the will of the people and that we do have this voice and we believe in you guys, that you hear us and that you really can make a difference. Have other cities said no to Planned Parenthood? Yes, and I bring this up because I want you to know that El Centro isn't reaching out to uncharted territories, that this has happened before. In fact, in the Washington Post just last month, this was published that Planned Parenthood was blocked in New Orleans. I have the article if you guys want to look at it. Okay.
But
And-
can I say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you
No,
want
go
me to
ahead.
go back?
I'll make a statement after you.
Oh, okay. And again, in San Antonio, this was just this January, and this was my research from just this year. There's been multiple cases where cities have said that they don't want it for whatever reasons. But there is hope that it has been stopped. And here you can see in San Antonio, they stopped Planned Parenthood from opening a massive new abortion clinic.
Thank you for that, but I think we have asked an attorney, an independent attorney,
Right.
to look at the full scope of options that may be available to the council, and if they follow the law, if they create liability to the citizens of El Centro, because it's not us, it's the citizens of El Centro, potential liability. All the points have been raised as far as should we have done a fiscal impact study? Should the hospital have done a fiscal impact study?
Of
That is
course.
being addressed. Everything we have listened in spite of
Right.
what some people accuse us not to. We have listened, we have developed the full scope. But there's two very important distinctions between the cases that you are mentioning here in
Okay.
New Orleans. The state of California has its own rules as it relates to abortion rights, which are different in other states. That's not our doing, that's not our jurisdiction.
Sure.
That's the state of California that has adopted certain measures that is going to be part of the scope of what we are looking at.
Right. And I understand what you're saying, but I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this. So are you saying that wherever Planned Parenthood wants to build, they will build?
What I'm saying is in California has different rules than other states. And I don't know that because we haven't gotten a legal opinion
And
yet.
yeah, and are you guys paying for that?
Yes.
I'm surprised you guys did that when you had huge legal firms offering to do that for free.
Which ones, ma'am?
We want
The
an
ADF and.
but
that's
we
what-
want an
Pardon?
independent third party. We felt that if we were to go with the offer of Mr. Gibbs, which was certainly most generous, that
Yes.
if that decision had come back the way that his association would have wanted it to, then
Okay.
the other side would have said it was tainted.
I see.
Just as well as if we were to hire a firm that was attached to Planned Parenthood or let Planned Parenthood's
Oh, I
attorneys
see.
do an independent stay. So our best way of handling this was to get somebody that had no skin in the game,
Okay.
was truly independent, that could come in and do a thorough job and give us a clear assessment of what the issues were.
So is it because, just because I'm thinking of the ADF and they've won 80% of their cases and 38 U.S. Supreme Court cases, is it because they were pro bono, that's why they could be considered tainted, as you said?
No, I don't think it's because of that. I think it's just because they advocate for pro-life.
Oh,
And we didn't want, you don't have a pro-life
I'm not
attorney.
so sure the ADF. Did you look into the ADF?
Well, I think their correspondence clearly indicated to us where they stood. And the
Oh,
reason-
because they were connected to the coalition?
Correct.
And,
Interesting.
and the reason why we wanted to have an independent attorney
Yeah.
look at this is because some people said the opinions that you're being given are biased. I don't necessarily believe that. I think that the opinions that were given were based on law, but in fairness to
Yeah.
the people that have come before us, we said, okay, let's get
Okay.
someone not associated with the city, hospital, pro-life, pro-choice, take a look at this and just look at what the law
May I
says.
ask who you used, or?
Yeah, it's on the agenda
It's on the
today. We're
agenda.
gonna
Oh,
be
okay,
having-
okay. Okay, we can get back to this.
Okay, please.
So they have succeeded and there is hope. And then I was gonna bring up these, which we already talked about. You see the ADF. So if you guys do go further into litigation, I don't see why you couldn't use these later if what comes back with your review. Maybe you could go further with these people because they are very well educated and they have a success record. Okay, so we already talked about that. What will women gain regarding health care? Without Planned Parenthood's abortion clinic, women will still be able to access all women's health care services from the following: the EC, RMC clinics, Pioneers Hospital, the Clinicas, primary doctors, OBGYNs. The only service that will be gained through Planned Parenthood's abortion clinic is abortion. And I just want to emphasize that tonight. Again, want to just reiterate and identify Imperial Valley's majority perspective and show you a picture of an unborn elephant, an unborn horse, an unborn leopard, an unborn penguin. Can you, oh, you guys can see it on your screen. Okay.
It's all right here.
An unborn shark, unborn polar bears, twins, an unborn snake, an unborn chihuahua. These pictures were smaller so you could see them better, and a fetus. And I just want to say, you know, even the animals, they are categorized and labeled as unborn and then what they are. And so just again to say that this community recognizes this. I know fetus is a scientific term and I'm not diminishing it, but that it is an unborn human, and this community really does value life, especially in the womb. The majority of Imperial County have identified this issue and have intellectually made their choice. Whether they have derived their decisions from religious convictions, moral convictions, political convictions is irrelevant. They should not have to defend themselves or persuade you. It is your civic duty to carry out the voices of the people. Again, I'm just making the same point. We've made mistakes in the past with the law, and I just want to quote Abraham Lincoln: "Whenever I hear anyone arguing for slavery, I feel a strong impulse to see it tried on him personally." And Martin Luther King said, "Freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed." And the only reason why I'm quoting this is I'm not equating these causes with abortion. However, I do think that these quotes, just these quotes, are a good representation of the values that this community holds. In just saying, whenever I hear anyone arguing for slavery, I feel a strong impulse to see it tried on him personally. I think that that can be translated into the abortion and just how this community feels. Planned Parenthood is coming despite your constituents' wishes. What will we gain? What choice did you make for El Centro, even though it is clearly against what we want? How many abortions a year does Planned Parenthood perform? We really don't know. We get these facts from the AGI and CDC, And California, Maryland, New Hampshire, they don't even publicly release their abortion totals. So supposedly there's 1.21 million abortions performed each year, but we really don't know, and we really don't know what's coming to the Valley. There's two kinds of in-clinic abortions. One is, and I want to pause and just go into this because I think that it is worthwhile for the audience and for you as city council members to hear exactly what is on Planned Parenthood's website and just to take the time to hear from them. Do you want to hear this, or how do you feel,
How long
Cheryl?
will it take you to go through the next slides?
Not even a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. A D&E, or the most common is called aspiration. This is straight from Planned Parenthood. It is also known as a vacuum aspiration. Aspiration is usually used up to 16 weeks after a woman's last period. There's also a D&E. It's another kind of in-clinic abortion. D&E is usually performed later than 16 weeks after the woman's last period. This is from Planned Parenthood's website. The most common is a vacuum aspiration. I thought that this would be worthwhile for the audience and city council members to look at and just see exactly what is coming into El Centro. And again, this is the D&E where you can see the body parts dismembered. I really want to encourage you to just look at the screens and just really see what is coming to El Centro. It's really
somehow, Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Sure, of course.
somehow, I get the impression that you believe that we're unaware. We've had several weeks of testimony, and we've
no,
seen.
I don't think you're unaware.
We've seen graphic pictures,
Sure.
still form pictures.
Oh, okay.
They were held all around the room, held up for us to see.
Okay.
We were given little brochures.
Okay, I
with
can
these
pass
pictures.
through it if you don't
No,
want
don't
to see
pass
it.
through because some people in the audience may not have seen them, but
Right.
we have.
That's
And you
really, it's
so
here.
you're doing it for a twofold, one for ourselves, for
Sure.
the council, as well as members of the audience.
The audience, and just I just think it's worthwhile to just be aware of what Planned Parenthood is and what they do, and you know, but we can pass through it if
But
you don't.
The mayor has
if you
given you the
prefer.
privilege to go forward,
Okay.
so please proceed.
Okay, I'll just read a few of the things. I just want to include what actually happens in Planned Parenthood. And this is from Planned Parenthood's website. Your healthcare provider will examine your uterus. You will get medicine for pain. You may be offered sedation, a medicine that allows you to be awake but deeply relaxed. A speculum will be inserted into your vagina. Your healthcare provider may inject a numbing medication into or near your cervix. The opening of your cervix may be stretched with dilators, a series of increasingly thick rods, or you may have absorbent dilators inserted a day or a few hours before the procedure. They will absorb fluid and get bigger. This slowly stretches open your cervix. Medication may also be used with or without the dilators to help your cervix. You will be given antibiotics to prevent infection. A tube is inserted through the cervix into the uterus. Either a handheld suction device or a suction machine gently empties your uterus. Sometimes an instrument called a curette is used to remove any remaining tissue that lines the uterus. It may also be used to check that the uterus is empty. When a curette is used, people often call the abortion a D&C. An aspiration procedure takes about 5 to 10 minutes, but more time may be needed to prepare your cervix. And then the D&E, a speculum will be inserted into your vagina. Your cervix will be prepared for the procedure. You may be given medication or have absorbent dilators inserted a day or a few hours before the procedure. They will absorb fluid and grow bigger. This slowly stretches open your cervix. You will be given antibiotics to prevent infection. In later second trimester procedures, you may also need a shot through your abdomen to make sure that the fetus's heart stops before the procedure begins. Your healthcare provider will inject a numbing medication into or near your cervix. Medical instruments and a suction machine gently empty your uterus. A D&E usually takes between 10 to 20 minutes. And again, I want the audience to be aware of what is coming to El Centro. I think the more information we have, the better we are to make a well-rounded decision, as this is a big decision.
I think that, you know, if we've heard this testimony
Okay.
before, Ms. Sanders has said.
Okay. Okay, sure.
It hard to read this and to
Okay.
kind of picture
Yeah.
the procedure.
That's
So
why I wanted to
from-
read it.
So from a personal perspective,
Okay.
this is a horrible procedure. You are not going to get anything from me other than this is horrible.
Sure.
This is not something that I condone personally.
Okay.
It's not something that I would ask anyone related to me to advocate for that.
But do you still believe they have a choice to do it? Because that's the issue. It's not the
That's-
personal.
I have, as Ms. Walker said, we have a responsibility to follow the law, in spite of what Mr. Harris has said. We have to follow the law. I don't know where the law is right now, because
I
the
understand
opinion
that,
that
but
we're getting.
the people want to know where you stand,
Well,
so that
the-
we know
the
if we want to
issue-
stand with you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, the issues are several.
Okay.
Part of your slide presentation dealt with whether we felt it was moral, or whether or not we felt it was political, or whether or not it might challenge our sensibilities as relates to our allegiance to our faith.
Sure.
All of that may be true on any given point in time.
Okay.
We talked about the Constitution earlier, and that presentation was given somewhat by Mr. Harris.
Sure.
I'm sorry, Pastor Harris.
Okay.
He wanted to make sure we allowed and exercised that First Amendment,
Okay.
which is definitely enshrined in the Constitution, U.S. Constitution. But so is the 14th Amendment,
Okay.
enshrined in the Constitution.
Okay.
So if we're going to adhere on the premise that the Constitution has certain components enshrined in it, then one cannot take a portion of it and not the other. And so I think the mayor and the rest of us have said that we're going to be looking at this, and that's later in the agenda, so I would encourage you to stay.
Oh, of course.
So that you could hear what the scope of work will be done by the outside counsel, who will be providing us
Sure.
a look-see as to
Yeah.
the constitutional component, the component as it relates to funding streams, specifically Medicare, Medi-Cal, and whether or not it flies in the face of whether the CEO, under his jurisdiction as CEO, had the authority to sign the transfer agreement.
Sure, I know.
So those are three pieces.
Okay. Yes, the purpose of this is just to engage in you, have the audience here, and we would like to know where you stand. And so just having an open conversation, even though it pains you, Mayor, as you said, to hear about this procedure, still, even though there's emotions, which I mean, we don't need to even get into. What the facts are the people want to know where you stand.
We stand on the law. We stand on the law. I know
What do you mean? The law
the
where
const-
women have a right to choose?
The Constitution certainly says that. We talked about the premise that if the First Amendment
If I
in the
may,
Constitution, giving you and all the others who may wish to sign the slips and say you would like to speak, you've allowed the opportunity for you to come forward, and anyone else that may wish to on any item in the council's jurisdiction.
okay. I think what's happening is I'm asking a rhetorical question. I'm not asking you to state right now if you're pro-choice or
It's
pro-life.
rhetorical. Then
Right.
Let me give you a rhetorical answer. As
Okay.
soon as we get the report back from the legal outside counsel, then we would have a better understanding of where it is in the framework of the law.
Okay. Yes, and I understand what you're saying, that it's the law, but I also want to emphasize that the people are watching, and even though you're waiting back to hear what is the law, I thought from what I could see, is that the ordinance allows you to have the power.
The ordinance would, Mayor, if I
authority.
may continue?
Of course.
The ordinance allows the council an option to disband the full
Okay.
board.
Okay.
And that would take time.
Okay, and we'll
And
see
the-
how this unfolds.
Yes,
And,
so,
but I do just feel like it is important to emphasize that the people are watching, and we do want to support you, but we are curious to see, you know, what you are going to do with the leadership that you do have.
Well, since it's a rhetorical question, I usually try not to answer rhetorical questions because it opens up a whole framework of
Right,
other
yeah,
things.
we can move on.
Thank you.
Okay. Before abortions in the Imperial Valley, women chose
2
adoption.
minutes. How many more slides do you have?
Just a few more. Responsibility, they have healthcare providers, and they're also able to go somewhere else to get an abortion. And I just want to mention, actually this is my last slide, that the mayor, I know you said there was a slide that was taken out because it was, what did you say? It was
Graphic.
It was graphic, and I completely agree. That's why I put this slide up, that viewer discretion is advised, and people may not want to see it. But I do want to say again that even though it is difficult to look at, that is what is going to be happening in El Centro if this does go through. There's going to be pictures like that everywhere. And so if it's hard for us to look at one picture in a city council meeting and I don't know, if it's easier to just not look at it in the face, does that make it easier, but still allow that to happen in El Centro?
I had a difficult time with it because of the scope of the authority that we have
Okay.
in this council. I think a lot of the debate and testimony that have come forth today, and particularly the last 2 meetings
Okay.
when the council chamber was full, had to do with the abortion issue and the morality of abortions, pro-choice for life. This is not something that we have the authority to debate or act upon. Our scope of authority specifically relates to the transfer agreement and what options, if any,
Oh,
are
yeah.
there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, within the scope of what we do, I did not think it was appropriate. Now, I did not direct Pastor Nunn to eliminate the slide. I suggested.
Oh,
and,
no, I understand. And that's why I'm saying I had this. I completely understand. I do want to thank the city council members who have listened to the people. And I just want to say that they should not be discriminated against for their service to a community who does not want a Planned Parenthood abortion clinic. And I do hope that through the reviews that you will find that you do have the authority to stop this Planned Parenthood, and when you do find that, if and when you do find that you have your community behind you and women's rights are not being lost, they are still able to go somewhere else. But this community stands very strong in not wanting that.
Thank you, Ms.
So,
Coles.
thank you for your time.
I do have a request to speak that normally would be handled at the end of the meeting, but given that it's the same topic and given that it's only one, and so this person does not have to wait for a long meeting that we still have to conduct, I'm going to ask Elizabeth Hamby to come to the podium, please. And we are going to restrict you, Ms. Hamby, to 3 minutes. Okay.
I don't want to talk. Okay, so I just wanted to share with you guys an experience that happened with me and a concern I have for the liability that you guys will be taking on with the transfer agreement. I grew up in Orange County and went to Dana Hills High School, and my best friend got pregnant, and Planned Parenthood would come to our high school and pick the girls up in a van, take them to Planned Parenthood to have the procedure, and then bring them back to school and drop them back off at high school. My best friend Jen started bleeding when we were in class after she got her abortion, and I had to take her to the hospital, and we were able to save her life. But she can't have kids anymore, and my concern is for the liability that it opens you guys up to, because this was a safe procedure that was performed, that they sent her back to school with her bleeding, with the procedure done in Planned Parenthood.
But
And
she-
I'm worried
But
about the liability.
She went to a hospital, it saved her life.
I had to take her to the hospital.
Okay, but it
They
saved her
sent her
life.
back to school.
Yes, but you then transported her somehow in your vehicle to a hospital that saved her life.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But the Planned Parenthood is the place that did the procedure, the safe procedure, and sent her back to high school while she was still bleeding. And that doesn't seem like very good medical practices. So that's my concern for you guys, is what is going to open up for you guys for the liability when they aren't done correctly. That's my concern.
Thank you, Ms. Hamby.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you very
time
much.
and for all your guys'
Thank you.
consideration. We
Thank you for
appreciate it.
that. So we dedicated an hour and a half to this testimony, so again,
I
to
need a vote, right?
have, sorry. People accuse us of not listening to the people is very irresponsible from my perspective. So let's take a
5 minutes.
5-minute break and come back in 15.
Oh, my goodness. And he said it, okay, now you, okay, he said it using that umbrella.
I mean, just to meet.
Can I take my wife? Yeah. Okay. Where at? We're here.
Oh, okay, 6:30? You might want to relay that to some of your other members.
We're waiting for Councilmember Sanders. Oh, and Mr. Cardenas, too.
I got a Snickers in my mouth.
Thanks.
Pass it down to that. Take a nap. Horrible.
I'm going to move
Where's Marcella?
this out.
She's eating a donut. Okay. You want me to, I'm the one that asked, or you want me to speak on it?
Ms. Sanders?
Eating a donut. What? Oh, Jesus. How come I didn't get one of this?
Okay, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are approved by one motion. Council members or members of the public may pull consent items to be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. Ms. Walker has asked that we pull item 7 from the consent agenda. Any other council members wish to pull
No.
another item? No, members of the public? See none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items 4, 5, and 6, please.
Move.
Okay, I'm sorry, we need to give time.
Yeah, she's got to pull
Yeah,
that
she
one
needs to
out.
do a little bit of maneuvering agenda. Okay. Moved by Jackson, second by Sanders. Please ballot. Okay, item 7, Ms. Walker?
Yes, I noted in the original council report that the matrix on page 109 did not agree with the RFP scoring matrix on page 115, and I asked staff in an email for clarification as to that. Also requested staff in an email sent yesterday prior to this meeting for a little bit more explanation as to why the top scoring company was not being recommended for the award.
Sure. Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the council, Marcela Piedra. The item basically relates to the lead-based paint and asbestos testing and abatement services, the RFP that we requested for this particular type of service. And I have distributed to you a revised ranking and scoring matrix, which shows the correct points and also the scoring. What you had attached to your original council report was actually the total of the scoring provided by the committee, so it was incorrect. So the new one actually shows the average. Of course, still indicating that Nicholas Engineering received 83 points. And really, the difference in scoring is with the general firm and as you will see on the ranking scoring, on the general firm and individual experience, that's really where the difference is, and also on the woman and minority owned. Labor compliance consultants is not a minority owned business or woman owned. That's where they lost the major. Well, obviously they didn't get any points related to that. However, staff is making the recommendation, given that labor compliance consultants is a local company in terms of cost to. They are reasonable. They're actually lower than the rest of the other companies, and they have the capability to provide same-day service. The difference with Nicholas Engineering is they're actually subcontracting the lead and testing work, and that's
Was it
really
a
the
local-
direct service.
Subcontract was local, though.
No, actually, they were contracting with an outside agency that was not a local company, in comparison with labor compliance consultants, which is actually based in El Centro. So that's the reason behind, but I wanted to point out the difference in the points, because labor compliance does lose points with the woman-owned and minority-owned.
So, Ms. Piedra, we only had 2 people that ranked the proposals? Or was your selection committee larger than that?
No, basically, it was two city staff members that reviewed the proposals.
Okay, any additional questions, comments from the council? Mr. Jackson?
I just have one. I'm going to say I appreciate that staff has recommended a local company. And I think I brought this up to you when we were doing the library assessment, is I have an issue with the woman minority points, because I think in this case, you could see that without that, they would be 6 points behind the local contractor. And out of the 6 firms, only 2 of them even qualified in that category. But, you know, I think where the meat of what we should be looking at is the general firm, the capacity to perform the work, the cost, the quality of staff, and the availability. And those are the things that I'm more interested in, rather than if there's a woman on, you know, or a minority on the ownership of the company, or there isn't. I'm looking for more of the actual work product. So I think I've said this, and I think this entire council has echoed this many times, is that we prefer to see our local dollars, our taxpaying dollars, go to local companies, and I'm very pleased in seeing that staff has recommended a local company in this case.
If I could respond, I think that there's some federal guidelines having to do with minority.
Well, there's certain percentages and certain requirements. That's why you see in certain RFPs that we do include that. And so in this particular case, the funding that we're using, and it's primarily for our housing rehab program, is federal dollars. It's through CDBG and home. And so in those particular cases, you know, obviously they recommend that we include those percentages that we try to target.
And I guess just to respond, we see that the 10 points is not, it's a weighting system, right? So there's a lot of other categories that get to your point, Mr. Jackson, as to the quality of the work, the pricing, and all the rest. And I think that this is truly a policy statement, because if it was a level playing field, we wouldn't need to be giving preferences to women and minority-owned businesses.
I'm just not sure that, and I don't disagree with your statement. I just don't know that it holds the same weight as cost maximum. You know, it just seems like it's so weighted that you could, in essence, and certainly in this case, you have a company that was much higher and scored a 5 on the cost, and labor compliance scored a 10 out of 10 on cost. But yet that didn't matter, because on the minority and woman-owned, you know, it offset that. And I don't necessarily have a problem with some category or some level. I just think that it needs to be weighted so that things like cost and performance and quality of work is much more, is something that's looked
It's
at.
a nice to have. So then the question should become to staff, based on other rating criteria and a matrix and in other circumstance, does this weighting, does it compare favorably with what you've seen?
As far as the score breakdown?
As far as allowing, out of 100 points possible, 10% of that to be carried by a woman or minority-owned business.
You know, basically what we've seen is...
If I may, Mr. Mayor, while Mrs. Piedra is collecting her thoughts. As you recall, we went back and looked at this, how we were going to prioritize the particular categories. And we went through quite a exhaustive procedure to say, there are certain protected classes, and then how do we break that out? Especially when we're getting this funding. And so when we did this, we brought it back to the council, and at that time, the council approved. Now, we want to make some adjustments. We approved this, was it several years ago, Marcela?
Well,
I mean, sorry,
basically, I
Mrs.
think
Piedra.
what I believe you're referring to, Councilmember Sanders, is when we were doing the local preference.
Yeah, which is totally different
obviously is
than
an
this.
example too, in a situation like this, that sometimes, you do provide additional points. And so that could impact, the rest of the area that you're providing a ranking on. Basically, I mean, to look at, usually what we have seen for women and minority-owned, the points can range from anywhere from 5 up to 10. And so, it's up to really the jurisdiction to determine how much emphasis you want to provide to those additional, for that additional category. So it could range between 5 and 10.
Yeah. I do agree with Councilmember Jackson that 10 out of 100 seems a little high for this particular item. I do see the value on this. But never, at the end of the day, we were able to evaluate this based on other factors and
That's
not
correct.
just the
That's
criteria.
correct.
So I think I'm satisfied with that.
One last comment. I think that one of the things we will want to look at in the future, women, minority-owned or veteran-owned businesses.
correct.
I think that as we see more and more veterans trying to come back and rebuild their lives and become successful as in small business world, I'd like to see that expanded if it's permissible to include veteran-owned businesses.
Yes.
With that, I'd move approval of staff's recommendation on item number 7.
Okay, so move,
Well, I would,
actually, you were
except
beat by
that-
Ms. Sanders.
And
So,
Mr. Jackson.
Sorry.
Moved by Sanders, second by Jackson. Any additional questions? Please ballot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vera. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move item
16.
16 to allow our friends from IDEDC to get a reasonable night's sleep. So with the indulgence of the council, I'll go ahead and ask Mr. Kelly. He has a presentation to the council.
Actually, Mr. Obayo and Mr. Wilcock are going to get some handouts to you. First of all, Honorable Mayor and Council, Mr. Duran, as you know, I'm Tim Kelly, President CEO of the Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation. We did give a presentation last July on our activities and our report to the City Council, and we've continued with our activities, have continued to meet our goals that were set forth by our Board of Directors, and we've elected a new chair of our board, Mr. Obayo, who took over in November, has been doing a great job for those of you that attended our annual dinner. And so I want to thank you for the opportunity of being here tonight. And I would like to invite Mr. Obayo to come up and say a couple words, and then we'll close off by letting you know some of the events that are coming up in the near future.
Thank you. Mr. Arballo. Is there a power, Ms. Caldwell? He has a PowerPoint. Do we? Oh, okay. Can we help him?
Good afternoon, council members and Mr. Mayor. It's good to see everybody again. Yusef Arbayo, I work for San Diego Gas and Electric. I've been involved with the Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation since 2006. And at that time, there was the Imperial County Economic Development Strategic Plan that was adopted by the Imperial Irrigation District and County of Imperial that identified 8 growth industries, and one of them being renewable energy. And there was a big focus on renewable energy. You see a lot of that when you're going to San Diego. You see the Ocotillo Wind Express project. You see the solar projects if you're on Highway 98 and up north close to the Salton Sea. There's a couple new geothermal projects as well, and there's a big emphasis by the county to develop a little more geothermal. But the intent behind Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation, thank you, is really to carry on the vision that we had from our founding directors of IVDC and the predecessor, Mr. Duran, the former city manager, can't recall his name right now, but he's a founding member. Kathy Henderson at that time was a founding member of...
Salem?
Yes, yes, he was a founding member. He's on the Articles of Incorporation, so just a little bit before, it was in 1999 when it was founded. And the vision was created by them, and it's continuing forward because the community leaders at that time, including civic, business, and other organizations, thought of the need for regional economic development. There was a lot of parochialism and focusing on individual areas of the county, but we needed a collective effort to move economic development forward. And something that we lack here in Imperial Valley is industrial business attraction. So that's our core focus because that has the most economic impacts. It's nice to have Olive Garden and In-N-Out, but really to have people eat at those facilities, we need large industrial facilities here that have more than just, we have workers, we have the property tax payments, and there's other things down the line. So the core mission is industrial business attraction, but we also have business retention, and we have business services. We have a new person that's been hired a few years back, Sean Wilcox, because there was a gap when we had all these solar projects that were being built. There was a gap as far as they wanted to hire local companies and local workers, but there wasn't any organization to provide that service. So IVDC stepped up, and Sean Wilcox stepped in to fill that position and has done an excellent job. He'll be talking about that in a few minutes. But our core values haven't changed since 1999 that were put together by our founding directors, including the leadership here in the city of El Centro and the El Centro Chamber. And the third one, I'll just read it for you, is the partnership between all local cities, elected officials, county, and utilities will always be driven by the private sector forces. In the past, we've had lessons where if you don't have the private sector leading, there's a lot of fluctuation as far as the organization like VITA, and we could go down the line as far as other organizations that have failed. But IVDC, during the struggles of 2007 and the economic recession, has held on and continued providing a service to our community. So the economic impacts, it's easy to say that we've had a lot of economic impacts. Of course, the city of El Centro is a big partner in the YK America projects, Target, the Town Center 2. They're developing the El Centro Town Center via. There was a groundbreaking. A lot of your council members were involved in that, including—
I was going to say, there's some good-looking people in those pictures.
Yeah, exactly. You might recognize a few of them. So you have Mayor Silva and Councilmember Sedalia Sanders there with the chairman of YK America, and there's a few others. So that's 240 market rate apartments. And there's others. There's also the Amen Energy project that has a little bit of their solar project close to the gas facility, the ID gas facility on the east side of the city of El Centro, have part of their project in the city of El Centro. But that's the intent of economic development for IVDC, is industrial business attraction, but we also help with the local needs of each city that we partner with here in the Imperial Valley. And with that, we'll hand it over to Tim or Sean to talk about the BPO and contact centers. We don't want to take too much of your time, but we appreciate you moving us forward on the agenda.
I'll be brief on this. If you're not familiar, I think you could, in our economic plan, it actually calls on call centers. And we really did not know how to attract call centers, and we received a grant from the USDA and actually hired a firm that helped us with that. And we found out that the BPO and IT was very suitable for this area. I think that Mr. Cardenas and Mr. Silva, I think Mr. Jackson also helped us, as we had 8 site selectors from across the nation, across the globe, that were here in the Imperial Valley. And we're now following up with about 40 companies now attending a BPO event in a couple months to attract those companies. We really find that that industry is just suitable here. And one of our marketing efforts has been the Cali Baja Binational Mega Region, which trying to attract companies that see the benefit of operating in 2 countries at the same time. As a matter of fact, next year we'll be hosting the World Forum for Foreign Direct Investment with Cali Baja in San Diego, in which tours will be done of the Imperial County, Mexicali Valley, Ensenada, et cetera, bringing about 500 people, but there will be about 150 site selectors from across the globe. So this is a new industry for the Imperial Valley. We think it's really suitable. And one of the examples we used was the IAD has a very established call center, and it's a very similar product as well as Rabobank did, and they have moved out of the Imperial County, but I'll tell you, they left here with a very good impression on people's minds about how good the workforce was here in the Imperial County for that service. So I wanted to bring that up. It was identified in our economic plan, and now we're pretty much covering all of our activities. So one of the things that does occur is that when we talk about economic development, and Mr. Arbayo mentioned the industrial development, and then that spurs jobs and that spurs other activities. But one of the things we're seeing is that the people that are benefiting, and Mr. Wilcock will refer to that, but when you, I think that this quote from Armando Quintero of Marriott El Centro, and this, you could look at all the hotels, not only here in El Centro, but also in Calexico and Brawley, we've heard the same thing. They've been at about 80% occupancy plus over the last 5 or 6 years. And that's probably better than any place else in the nation because of the construction we've been doing. And there's people that are staying in those hotels 365 days a year. And so that's every single day we're generating TOT tax at those hotels. As I mentioned, about 80% of those hotels have been filled during the recession, which a lot of hotels were going bankrupt across the nation. So these are some of the companies that we worked with and that are using this particular hotel. These aren't the only people that are staying in those hotels, but it's really been a great industry here in the Imperial County. And I'll tell you that when we've had events here in the Imperial County, we warn people, you've got to get your hotel rooms early because they'll sell out. And they call us and they go, well, we're staying in Palm Springs because we couldn't get a hotel in Imperial County, which tells us one thing, we need more hotels. So anyway, that's been a good plus for us. But remember, the TOT taxes are generated. You know, a lot of times they look at TOT tax and the tourism. Well, what we call this is economic development tourism. People are actually staying in the hotels because of the jobs that are being created here. And then just want to tell you a few of the things that are going on. Of course, we have our Board of Directors meeting next week. The Imperial Valley General Assembly and Economic Summit is going to be in partnership with the Southern California Association of Governments and ICTC and IVDC. And we really felt that it was time to really look at these industry clusters. And everything that's going to be discussed there, a lot of it will be in transportation and the importance of transportation. But one of the things that's really going to be discussed is a relationship between the industry clusters, workforce development, education, and economic development, what we're doing in marketing. And there's got to be a tie-in to the courses that are being offered at Imperial Valley College, to what we're doing at the Workforce Development Board and training for these jobs, and the jobs that we're trying to attract here and the infrastructure that we're putting in. There's got to be a connection. If there's not, we're all kind of spending a lot of money and wasting a lot of time. And so that's one of the things we're trying to do, is making sure that the roads that we're building and et cetera are for the purpose of moving people to jobs and creating opportunities. And so we look forward to that coming up. Mexport is just around the corner. That's an event that we attend on the border. And then Select USA Roadshow is something we'll be attending. We hope that one of the council members can attend with us, and we'll be in Mexico City and Tijuana for that event. But we will be making a stop in Guadalajara, which we have a meeting set up with at least about 20 companies that are looking at the west coast of the United States for the BPO industry. And so we're in the planning stages of that right now. So I want to invite Mr. Arbayo. He's going to talk about what he's been doing with the business services and attracting or working with local contractors, which has been a very successful program. Many years ago, I came to this council member and said, what are you doing for the local companies? So well, first of all, we're bringing industrial development so they can have jobs. Now we're actually connecting industrial development with the local contractors.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, my name is Sean Wilcock. I'm Vice President of Business Services at IVEDC. I appreciate you guys bumping us up on the agenda, so I'll make this brief. I want to talk a little bit about some of the value that we're bringing to the businesses of El Centro. You'll see a document with a graph here that shows, followed by a list of businesses that we are assisting through our procurement program. Our procurement program is what Mr. Arbayo and Mr. Kelly briefly discussed, in which we are successfully attracting these large industrial projects, and then we are connecting those projects with the local contractors. And you'll see the overwhelming majority of the businesses that we're assisting in this way are businesses in El Centro. So these businesses on this list are being connected with solar projects, geothermal projects, biofuels projects, corrections facilities, and others. And in the last 3 years, we've facilitated just about $100 million worth of contracts coming through our office for local subcontractors. So that's been a very successful program. There is no charge to take part. There's no charge for the contractor to take part in this program. It's free of service. So it's worked out very well for us. Another program that we're doing is the local bid opportunities. So we have Terry Brown in our office is scrubbing all the local websites, the IID, the County of Imperial, the city, all the cities, the water districts, for any contracting opportunities, bid opportunities that are being presented by those agencies. And we're putting it into one concise document and sending it out electronically to over 700 recipients locally. We're also bringing opportunities from San Diego and Riverside County to work on things like airports and other things that are going on in San Diego. You'll also find, we're also doing a lot of workshops to help local businesses to expand, take advantage of tax incentives, learn about new labor laws. For example, the workshop we did on SB 854, which was new legislation that came down that restricted and created new guidelines for contractors and public agencies that perform public works projects. So we asked Department of Industrial Relations to come down and conduct a training for us, and we had about 200 local registrants at that event. It was a very, very successful event. Everybody got a lot out of that. Additionally, back in January, we had some you'll see the Think High Value Tax Insights. They are tax consultants, business tax consultants that came in and did a presentation. What they promoted is their ability to take a business and find all the tax incentives that a business could take advantage of, and they could, closely work with those businesses. Additionally, back in October, you'll see that we had a workshop. We had the governor's office come down and do a California Competes workshop. As a result, we've assisted 2 companies in that process, and as a result, we've secured $3.5 million worth of tax credits from the governor's office. One of the companies most recently was U.S. Gypsum. Before that, California Ethanol and Power received $3.1 million. So that's been a very successful program for us. Lastly, some of you may be aware that there is a repavement project going on, several sections of I-8 within the Imperial County all the way to Yuma. It's about $213 million project. We are working very closely with District 11, Caltrans District 11. I sit on the Small Business Council with them. They are going to do an outreach event, so we're handling that outreach event for Caltrans to connect as many local subcontractors with the project so that they can come in and learn about the project, learn about the bid process, learn about the expectations that they're going to need to meet, bonding and insurance. We'll have folks from the Workforce Development Board come in and present their services to help the contractors meet the needs of the they're going to have to beef up their workforce and hire new people and get training to meet the needs of this project. So we're anticipating that workshop to be in late June, early July, and we're still working on a venue at this time. The last item, we have entered into a contract with San Diego Community Colleges to conduct a manufacturing survey. That's a survey that we're going out and we're going to conduct with all the manufacturers in Imperial County to find out what their skills gaps are, find out where they're at now, where they're going in the future, and see where the gaps are in their workforce skills to see, and the end result is that this information is going to be sent up to the state, and the state is going to be able to better understand where they need to allocate funds to the community colleges to meet the needs of the coming industries that are here and expanding. So that's about all I have.